Proverbs says a house and wealth are inheritance from fathers. Proverbs 13:22 says a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. Many years ago, I was in the prayer chapel. It was soon after we built the prayer chapel, maybe a year. And I was in the prayer chapel and I was praying, and I know this sounds very strange. I hesitate to do this on streaming, but I was in the prayer chapel and I was thrust 100 years into the future. And I was in this palace. I don't know if it was a palace or a mansion or just this really beautiful, huge house. And I was standing next to an old man, and I could see him perfectly, but he couldn't see me. And it was like a family reunion. And the old man was, they had some little children around him, and he was doing what old men do. He was just kind of musing and telling stories, and people, the kids were like half paying attention. And then all of a sudden, in the vision, the old man's voice, his voice changed. His emphasis changed in his voice. And he started to tell his children about their divine history. And as he did, the family in the vision began to gather. The women out of the kitchen, the men out of the front room. And pretty soon there was, 50, 60, 70 people, a very large family. They gathered around the old man, and the old man the old man was telling them about their divine history. They were all sitting in the room around him. You could hear a pin drop as they were hanging on every word as this old man began to tell them about the divine exploits and the history of their forefathers and how they had gotten to this place in God. And all of a sudden, the old man, there was a big fireplace right in front, a very high fireplace. It was probably as high as the ceiling, made out of stone. And this old man, with me standing next to him, he went like this, and all of this. And when he said all of this in the vision, I knew he meant all of this favor, all of this wealth, all of this power. He said, all of this came, and he points to the fireplace, and over the fireplace is a huge portrait of my wife and I. And he said, all this came from your great-great-grandmother and grandfather. And as soon as he said that, the vision ended, and I'm back in the prayer chapel on the floor. And the Lord said to me, I've called you to quit your ministry and begin a legacy. From this day forward, you will live for a generation you will never see. And I began to realize that I'm not living for myself. I began to realize that I'm not living for myself. That I'm living for people who went before me. That I'm living for people who are with us. The people we talk about all the time. But I'm also living for a generation that is yet to be born.